No immediate plans to abolish MPF offsetting mechanism. Tourist numbers expected to climb further. And claims the U.S. spy agency gathers millions of text messages every day.
Good evening. The chief executive has played down suggestions his government was going to abolish the mandatory Provident Fund's offsetting mechanism involving severance pay and long service payment. After being accused of failing to make good on his election promise, Leung Chun-ying says he has been misunderstood. Joao da Silva reports.
Speaking on RTHK this morning, the chief executive said the offsetting mechanism will stay in place, at least for now.
We are not going to go to a cliff and then just offset everything. Well, we have started the process of trying to strike a consensus between employers and employees in Hong Kong. We want to listen to employers and employees as to how we should do this progressively and how much of what can be offset against the MPF accumulated benefits.
So people who have the impression that you're going to abolish this offset mechanism altogether, they've got it wrong. That's a misunderstanding. You're just going to reduce it.
That's definitely a misunderstanding.
The mechanism, which allows employers to offset severance and long service payments against their contributions to an employee's MPF, has long been a bone of contention between workers and employers. Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung today referred to the issue's long history to explain why the government needs to try and forge a consensus before introducing any changes.
When the ordinance was enacted way back in 1995, the ordinance leading to the present MPF setup, there was apparently a compromise amongst particularly the business community, that they are prepared to endorse an MPF system, provided that there was offsetting. That's why this is a far-reaching implications, a complex issue, a cause for carefully handling.
But the Labour side is not happy. The Federation of Trade Unions today expressed disappointment that the chief executive failed to unveil a detailed plan towards putting an end to the offsetting mechanism in his policy address on Wednesday. The FTU said it's losing hope that anything will be done to abolish it.
Our government have not done anything to fulfill the promise about offsetting. Gradually, we are losing our confidence because it's no time, it's too late to launch any legal procedure.
Still, the legislator said he will raise the issue at next Wednesday's LegCo meeting. The Confederation of Trade Unions also criticised the CE for not addressing the issue in his policy address. João da Silva, TV News.
Officials insist adequate support facilities will be in place when it comes to the chief executive's efforts to further develop Hong Kong. Evelina Leung has that story.
The Secretary for Transport and Housing insisted today the proposed redevelopment of Wah Fu Estate will be supported by adequate transport infrastructure, among them the railway network.
With the further development in Pok Fu Lam South, Wah Fu redevelopment and other sites, of course, we are fully mindful of the additional traffic demand. So therefore, we are quite prepared to take forward the West Island Line West project.
Cheung said the redevelopment plan of Wah Fu Estate will take a few years to study before anything concrete can go ahead. And by then, traffic arrangements should be all sorted out. Meanwhile, the Development Secretary said the proposed East Lantau metropolis is in a less ecologically sensitive area. But he promised to engage the public in the way forward.
According to the information that are available to us, these areas are comparatively less controversial and less sensitive in terms of Chinese white dolphin and other ecological consideration. In terms of Chinese white dolphin, in the context of other reclamations in the north of Lantau, namely Sunny Bay and Siu Ho Wan, we are undertaking a cumulative environmental impact assessment. So to the east, the Lantau East development, probably this difficulty would be comparatively less.
Evelina Lang, TVB News.
We'll have more on the policy address later in the newscast. To other news now. A new study has projected total tourist arrivals will hit more than 70 million in 2017. The government said the city needs to focus on building more hotels, but those from the tourism sector believe there's a lot more that needs to be done. It's been a burning question in many Hong Kong people's minds. How many more people can we possibly fit in the small city? Last year, total tourist arrivals hit 54.3 million, a rise of nearly 12% compared with the year before. Mainland tourists accounted for 70% of the total. And the latest government study on the city's capacity shows that by 2017, the figure will go up to more than 70 million. And it would reach 100 million by 2023. But the study also said the local economy needs tourists to keep coming.
We concluded that as a free port, we treasure the freedom to enter or leave the region, and we cannot and should not set a limit on the overall visitor arrival. On the basis that projected visitors' arrivals would be over 70 million in 2017, Hong Kong would generally be able to receive the visitor arrivals, but hotel rooms would continue to be tight, in very tight supply.
There are currently about 68,000 hotel rooms in the city, and the occupancy rate in recent years, 90%. In 2017, the number of rooms is expected to go up to 84,000. Now, the Travel Industry Council called for more resources to handle the expected influx of tourists at border checkpoints. Chairman Michael Wu pointed out the Lo Wu checkpoint is already often operating at maximum capacity, with tourists having to wait some 45 minutes to cross the border. In terms of the public sentiment that the city is overcrowded, So said Hong Kong needs to strike a balance. He said the economy relies heavily on tourism, with 230,000 people employed in the sector.
In terms of the flow, whether people could accept the level of visitors, we're very mindful of that. We keep engaging the public, and for that we have a dialogue with the mainland authority to liaise with them.
So said the government will try to focus on attracting visitors with high purchasing power.
Overseas, and U.S. President Barack Obama is set to announce later today what changes he'll make to the country's spying practices in the wake of the explosive leaks of whistleblower Edward Snowden. This comes as even more of Snowden's revelations were published by the British newspaper The Guardian. Here's Alan Booknia.
According to the newspaper, the U.S. National Security Agency has been gathering nearly 200 million text messages each day from private citizens from around the world. The paper cited a 2011 NSA presentation titled SMS Text Messages, a goldmine to exploit. This latest revelation comes ahead of Obama's highly anticipated speech on the idea of changing some of the NSA's spying activities.
But the devil's in the details. You know, how much of this reform conversation is going to be about curtailing the specific surveillance programs, and how much of it is going to be instead about improving the checks and balances on the programs that already exist.
Obama is also expected to back tighter restrictions on surveillance of foreign leaders. Revelations of spying in France, Brazil, and on German Chancellor Angela Merkel's mobile phone caused international outrage. But Vladeck says that issue is not very problematic because governments spy on each other, both friends and foes.
There, the question is just what is the best diplomatic course forward? What is the best way for the president to at once preserve our capabilities to know what our friends and enemies are up to overseas, while not, provoking these very uncomfortable conversations with Germany, with France, with China.
Earlier this week, a U.S. government review committee made some recommendations. They included taking phone records away from government hands and mandating court orders for each record search. Vladeck says the president is facing a tightrope walk.
You cannot satisfy both constituencies, the intelligence community on the one hand, civil liberties advocates and civil liberties organizations on the other.
Alan Brookniat, TVB News.
In Thailand, dozens of people were hurt when an explosion rocked an anti-government protest march. Police say a grenade was thrown from a nearby building into the back of a truck being driven by demonstrators. They've been on a week-long protest in Bangkok demanding the resignation of caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. At least 36 people were wounded. Witnesses say the grenade landed just meters away from protest leader Suthep Thangssuban. He was not hurt. It's an ominous development that raises tensions in the country's political crisis and the specter of more bloodshed to come.
And when we come back, tributes for Sir Run Shaw in his memorial. A Makufu setback at the Masters. And black cabs in London going green.